Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and you join us here today with the heavily updated 2026 Kia Sportage in one of the most popular packages you can get this vehicle, the X-Pro Prestige. Now there is a lot going on with the entire 2026 Kia Sportage lineup. The hybrid now gets more power as well as an X-Line trim, not as aggressive as the X-Pro, but still a little bit more off-road-esque, if I could say. But there's also, as you can see, new styling and a lot of new stuff happening on the interior. So of course, as always, we're going to take a full in-depth tour and review of this 2026 Kia Sportage. I'm going to show you all the new and interesting features and whether I think this is a proper value competitor against the huge class of vehicles this vehicle competes in now. Everything from the Mazda CX-50 Meridian Edition to the Subaru Forester Wilderness to the Honda CR-V Trailsport to the Nissan Rogue, Rock Creek, Bronco Sport. There are just so many. So of course, let's go dive in and see what this Kia Sportage X-Pro Prestige has to offer. Now, under the hood of this 2026 Kia Sportage isn't actually a new powertrain. We have a very familiar, pretty much identical powertrain as the previous model, and that is a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, here making around 187 horsepower and around 178-ish pound-feet of torque. And I won't be the first person to tell you that it is, well, not the quickest thing on the planet. Now, like I mentioned, this vehicle can be had in a hybrid as well as a plug-in hybrid, not this specific trim, which is exclusive to this engine, but the overall Kia Sportage. And those powertrains offer you way better efficiency, incredible amounts of range, and obviously more horsepower, which is going to make this vehicle feel a lot more peppy on a day-to-day basis. This, well, it just isn't the most enthusiastic or fun engine, I would say. And in this particular trim, this X-Pro Prestige, the fuel economy is really not super impressive. I've been averaging around 23 to 24 MPG over the course of this week. Largely, that is due to these off-road, chunky, thick tires that we have on this particular one. Thankfully though, it is paired to an 8-speed automatic gearbox of Hyundai and Kia's own design. No CVT here, which is a wonderful thing to hear. And we also do have a pretty good, actually, all-wheel drive system now that has terrain modes that you can adjust via the steering wheel in the cabin. First up on the 2026 Kia Sportage is, well, you can probably see up front, an all-new fascia. Every single new Kia Sportage will have this new fascia, and it comprises of this much longer and more prominent kind of rectangular-esque grille design. This particular X-Pro package, we're getting a blacked out Kia badge on the hood over here as well. And all of these are pretty much going to have their new kind of signature-esque orange daytime running lights, which are very distinctive and now much larger than they were before versus that boomerang look we had on the pre-facelift. I kind of like that look a little bit more than this updated version, but let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And since it is a little bit more, you know, all-terrain, off-road focused, coming down to the lower, we have this gloss black lower bumper area, and you can actually option a skid plate for this vehicle on this particular one. This one doesn't have it, but it will go underneath the vehicle to help protect a little bit more of the components if you're taking it off the regular good old pavement. Stepping to the side of the Kia Sportage X-Pro Prestige, we have one of the main highlights of this vehicle that really makes it an X-Pro. It's this wheel and tire combo. This is the only version of the Kia Sportage you can get this particular combination here. So we have these unique 17-inch kind of matte black finished wheels over here, and they have a very more blocky design, which is kind of in line with a lot of what Kia is doing throughout their entire design language. But the real piece is this tire. This is the BF Goodrich all-terrain tire over here, and it has a lot more tread than any other version of Sportage you're going to get. Even the X-Line gas or hybrid models, this is going to be the most capable out of the factory version of the Kia Sportage you're going to be able to get. Otherwise, nothing really is different on these X-Pro models. The suspension's pretty much the same. Ground clearance is okay at around 8.3 inches, but that doesn't come anywhere close to some of the leading vehicles in this particular segment, such as the Subaru Forester Wilderness or Ford Bronco Sport in specific trims. So this is in the mid-pack. I would call it a almost, you know, soft off-roader in that sense. If you're really taking this on some gravel roads or some of those broken pavements, it handles pretty well, especially with the softer suspension. But you don't got a lot of wheel travel, you don't have a lot of articulation, and if you don't option that skid plate, some pieces could be vulnerable to a little bit more aggressive off-road scenarios. Also new for this model year is the front keyless access door handles are now a touch-sensitive version. So instead of pressing a button to unlock it, you literally just put your hand in, it unlocks. You don't need to press anything, and to lock it, you just tap the little square cutout right here. There's no actual physical button, so that may be something you need to get used to in this 2026 Kia Sportage. You can also use and set up the digital key option as well, so you can use your phone to lock and unlock your vehicle. Specifically, if you have an iPhone, you can use that through the Apple Wallet, making entry and exit of your new Kia Sportage a lot more digitalized. Out in the rear of this 2026 Kia Sportage, again, not much has changed. You will actually notice we have a new design for the interior portion of our LED taillights right here. Again, a little bit more blocky and more cohesive than it was before, much brighter LED signatures here. So that's a quite nice look to see. And of course, opening up our rear tailgate over here, we can just stand here with the key actually with a smart tailgate. You can turn that on and off. There's like a kick to open, as well as just a traditional button press as well to open up our tailgate. So I can press that and our power tailgate will open up for us. Pretty easy. And one of the great things about the Kia Sportage is just how much cargo space you have back here, but also how low the load floor is. So getting in stuff in here, or even having, you know, like a dog or a pet jump into the trunk is really easy in the Kia Sportage, just because of A, how large and tall this opening is, but also how low it is overall to the ground. So that's a really nice touch over here, as well as just how wide this space is between the two wheels. That's a really great thing to putting in larger suitcases or boxes and stuff. We have some LED lighting in here as well, a more rugged feeling carpet over here, and opening up our floor underneath, we're gonna find a space saver spare tire over here as well, which is a really great touch to still include in this vehicle. Otherwise, you can still fold those seats down, and this one does have a cargo cover over here that you can pull out. But overall, it's still really great cargo space in the 2026 Kia Sportage. Okay, folks, let's go have a look now at the interior of this 2026 Kia Sportage. We're gonna start out in the rear seats here. We have our fuel filler cap on the driver's side here. Opening up our rear doors, which the vehicle is unlocked. We have a really nice and wide opening door angle here still, which is really easy for entry and exit in and out of this Kia Sportage. Getting inside is pretty easy, as this vehicle is relatively low-ish to the ground, and we have such a wide opening. Closing up the door, nice solid thunk there, and we have on the upper panel harder, scratchier plastics. We do have tinted privacy glass in here, which is a nice touch. No shade. And over on the door, we have a very stylized door pull, as well as this kind of faux wood-esque trim up in the upper portion of the door panel. Down here, we get a little more soft touch materials for your arm over here, which is nice. A little door storage cubby pocket, as well as a window switch, all illuminated at night. Harder plastics, of course, and down here we have a Harman Kardon speaker. But what's really nice back here is just how much space you're really going to have. It's very, very spacious in this Kia Sportage. I can genuinely stretch out. This is my seating position back here as well for a 6-foot tall adult, and I can stretch my legs out. I can put my feet under the seat still, and I still get a storage cubby back here, as well as a hook, which is a cool little touch. We're also going to find a hook on the upper roof portion over here, which is nice, and that's also going to have an interior LED light, as well as this grab handle. And you may be wondering, where are the USB-C ports back here? Well, they've been moved now to this side portion of both of the back rear seats. So you got two USB-C ports back here. Center console is getting air vents, which is a nice touch. No temperature or fan adjustment though. We do have a little storage cubby over here in this center pocket. And the seats themselves are really huge. I like how big the lower portion of the bottom seats is. That makes, you know, sitting back here a lot more comfortable. You don't feel like your legs are floating anywhere. The seats themselves are relatively well sculpted. We also are getting a center armrest that pulls down to reveal two cup holders in here, which is nice. And it's just overall, this cabin is really, really huge. I can sit in this center seat really easily, actually, and you can see that how much room there still is on the two outboard seats. So you really can fit 3 people back here, which is really nice. And another great feature of these rear seats still is this colossal panoramic glass roof that goes all the way right to the back of like where my head is in the rear seats, which opens up this cabin quite a bit. This front panel does open as well, and it helps to improve headroom in this vehicle as well. So that's a really nice touch. And you can see we have a sunshade that does cover this whole panoramic glass roof. So if you don't want it open, you don't have to have it open. I do believe we have a little bit of a recline as well in the seats. Oh, we do. This also does fold down the seats, but it kind of works as a little bit of a recline. And fold the seats just a little bit further back up into where this bar is back here. But overall, I think this is a pretty comfortable rear seat space. Again, lots of space just overall to kind of move around. We're gonna go hop up front now and see what's new on this front end of the cabin. Getting inside the 2026 Kia Sportage is really easy actually, which I quite like. A little bit of a reach for the doors over here. Again, pretty nice solid thunk. We have comfort access, moving my seat back into position here. And let's start up the vehicle really easily from our start stop button located in this center console over here. So let's press this and start it up. Okay guys, so what's going on in this 2026 Kia Sportage's cabin? Well, a lot. So as you can see off the bat, we have an all new steering wheel design. So this is going to be across all of the 2026 Kia Sportages, and it removes the traditional 3-spoke shape for this one large single spoke design. But that's not the only change we have here. If you're going to notice, our driver assistance buttons have now been moved to the left side, and our radio controls have been moved to the right side. So that might be a little bit of a change to get used to. We're also going to note that that little center panel over here where we had a little scroll dial has now been moved up to our steering wheel. So left hand side we have our drive modes. We have you can see we have normal, sport, and my drive. And we also have our terrain modes, which is a separate button here that's going to cycle through snow, mud, and sand mode. So all of this is going to adjust the all-wheel drive system for different traction management situations. On our left-hand side, thankfully, Kia and Hyundai are still doing a lot of great physical buttons. So we have giant traction control button here. We can adjust our interior illumination for our screens, open up our tailgates, and all of our just great simple buttons over here for our window and lock controls. We even get seat memory up front here. A little bit of some softer materials on this upper portion for the door panel and the front seats, which is nice. Same soft material over here. It's kind of blended over here, but a lot of big, great storage spaces on the side of the door panel over here as well, which I do like to see. I believe you can get all-weather formats because I think these might get a little messed up in some winter situations. That would be a nice addition. Otherwise, though, the real big highlight of this interior is the all-new screen and software that we're getting. So as you can see right now, we have our circle gauges on, but we can also cycle through our middle screen now just to be a few different things. So we have a driver assistance. We have this multifunction page that can show us things like our power distribution, tire pressures, our refueling, MPG, and trip computer. That's about it. There's no more, really huge navigation or kind of dynamic displays anymore. It's really just either these circle gauges, or you can kind of do the more digital-esque gauges that Kia does offer. And to change that, you go to your infotainment system, you press setup, you press cluster, and you can go into here and change your cluster theme selection here. So it could be circle or the simple, very, very simple gauges, which have a whole bunch of different styles. Other than that, I really like how Kia still separates their climate control system from the infotainment screen with this lower panel over here. It's a little bit funky to use, and I've actually even seen some journalists say that there's no center physical volume knob. I'm not sure if that's because they can't see it from here or if it was stuck on this display. So you can actually change this center screen to stay on either your climate screen or your radio screen as a default. All you got to do is hold this little panel in the center here, and you should be able to access the screen. Here we go. So returns to the selected display when the other display times out. Right now it's on infotainment. I can have it go to default to climate. So now it's always going to be on the climate screen. And if you want to go back to your infotainment, you press infotainment, you can make an adjustment, and it's going to default now in a second back to the climate screen. And of course, this new infotainment system that we have had a while to kind of play with. I generally like it. It's a lot better than the previous one. We have wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, finally. And thankfully, that means you can use the wireless charging mat down here, which is actually pretty good. We also have 2 USB-C ports up here, and this one is multifunction, so it could be just charging, or you can make it USB and charging. So that means you can have it connected to the infotainment system. But if you don't want that, you could just make it pure charging, which is actually a really cool touch there. But overall, this infotainment system is generally pretty easy to use, especially if you have the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto signed up. It's a lot quicker to operate now, which is really nice. You have this kind of multi-function home screen. My only complaint is the menu structures, and I said this in the EV6 as well. It can be a little bit funky. So you have all these pages of a lot of menus here, and then going to the setup screen, I like how this screen is, but the second you dive into some more stuff, it kind of gets a little funky, especially when it turns into this older style screen here. I feel like this just gets a little bit clunky sometimes. And you do have a lot of connected features in the system if you do pay for your connected package, so you can access things like YouTube, for example. But you're going to see in a second, this one does not offer it because we don't have the Kia Connect store for like a subscription. So a lot of these vehicles are moving to these subscription services. Same thing with this one. Now, one thing I will note that Kia did in this cabin is they removed a lot of the gloss black plastic that we saw in the last pre-facelifted Sportage. So the last one I remember had a lot of gloss black plastic over here. Now it's matte plastic. Same thing with the center console. All of the gloss black is gone. So we have this kind of trim piece over here, which is the same material we saw on the dash portion, which is kind of nice. It's like this faux wood-esque design. I wish this side panel over here was padded though. It is harder black plastic, so my knee is going to be hitting that all the time. But otherwise, I think it looks visually quite nice. We do have a nice, good old traditional shifter in this vehicle as well. Drive, neutral, reverse, park. Very simple and easy to use. No paddle shifters on this vehicle, which is a little bit of a downside since we have a traditional 8-speed, but we can still manually shift it over here with this little icon. So shift it over to the left. You can shift up and down manually if you do want to do that. This little panel over here has now been reconfigured, so we have quick access buttons for our parking sensors, auto stop start to be turned off, as well as hill descent control, auto hold, and our camera system, which is actually really, really great in this vehicle. So we have extremely crystal clear camera views in this Kia, and there are endless amounts of camera views in the system. I mean, like truly endless amounts of camera systems from the rear. You can just see how many different angles you can put this car's camera system in. Really great 360 bits. We also have the pure 360 mode where it can just kind of scroll the whole car around in a circle, and you can see how quick and responsive it is as well. So I think a lot of manufacturers now are doing pretty good camera systems. Also in the center console panel, we still have a very familiar looking panel here for our seat ventilation and heating. So we have 3-stage seat heating, 2-stage steering wheel heating, and 3-stage ventilation for the front 2 seats. So that's a really nice premium option that you don't get in a lot of vehicles in this class. The only one I could think of really is the Mazda CX-50 Meridian Edition Turbo, but that gets more power than this vehicle, even though it's around the same price as this vehicle. And the centerpiece over here, we have this huge storage over here, as well as these nice configurable cup holders we find in a lot of Kia products. So those can be just easily closed away to have a much larger storage space, or you can just pop open either one as well as a padded center armrest over here with some kind of stitching design here. It could be a little bit squishier, and then opening this up, we do get a pretty large center console storage cubby over here, as well as a 12-volt socket still in the center console area, which is nice. Closing that up has a pretty nice solid feel. And over here, we still have a good old glove box as well. That's actually a pretty large space to shove things in. No felt lining, but again, pretty nice extra storage in this cabin. Closing that up, we're going to find up here, we have our controls for our large panoramic glass roof, as well as our sun visor shade. We have some touch activated LED interior lights here. And you're going to note our side sun visor does indeed slide open. The only thing is you have to turn on the light manually over here if you do want to actually have a light on, and it's not LED. I wish this was LED to match the rest of the interior lights, but the mirror is colossally huge. So that is a really nice plus there. So for 2026, this is a pretty nice improved space. But let's go take this 2026 Kia Sportage X Pro Prestige out on the road and see if there's anything new in the driving department. Now, around town cases, we have our wonderful blind spot cameras, which makes turning and seeing over your side really great. This is also a really great feature on the highway. And what I really like about this new steering wheel, other than it heats up incredibly quickly, is the turning ratio and the steering ratio is actually doesn't feel at least that slow to me. And what that means is, turn to lock is only like 2 or 3 turns to lock. So making adjustments in a tight parking spot or just maneuvering around town is a pretty quick process. Now we have an insane amount of safety features on this vehicle, a lot of which are now standard, which is great, but being this is the fully loaded model, you're getting them all anyways. So at around 42 grand, I think the amount of stuff you're getting in this car is quite nice. We have parking sensors, blind spot, steering assist, lane keep assist. We have our full highway driving assist as well. All that works really great. What's also nice about this vehicle is it's actually a pretty soft ride overall. Now, shockingly, Kia did not really change the suspension for this X Pro Prestige model, even though it's a sort of off-road-esque model, which I think they should have. I think that would have been a little bit more of a more serious tone to this, but I think they weren't going for a more serious off-roader. They were kind of going a little bit more towards this, soft off-road class of vehicle that is exploding right now in the market. You can hear that 4-cylinder wind itself out there. And what I have noticed in this particular one is every start I get off, we have traction on all 4 wheels. Only in some cases on a highway scenario is it when that we really see just being more front-wheel drive bias. So I'm curious to see if this all-wheel drive system in this X Pro model is a little bit more active at all times versus the other Kia Sportage models, just to give you that little extra reassurance of traction in this particular vehicle. Going around corners, it handles itself pretty well. Nothing to write home about. Very composed. I think my closest comparison to this would be almost like a Subaru Forester kind of vehicle. You have your Mazda CX-50 and the CX-5, which are like the sporty bunch of this entire pack of vehicles, and then you go into the more run-of-the-mill vehicles in terms of their handling characteristics of the Nissan Rogues, the Honda CR-Vs, which handles themselves pretty well, and the Toyota RAV4, which I personally do not think drives the best. This, I think, kind of splits the line just a little bit more. It's a little bit more neutral in its handling, but it also has a little bit of some nice body feedback. The rear suspension, like a lot of vehicles in this class, is a little bit on the floatier end, just so it can kind of handle a little bit more load and the cargo and with passengers in the back. So I did notice that, but overall there's really no complaints here in the driving department. It's generally pretty quiet. Surprisingly, even with these chunky tires, you don't get road noise coming in here, which is a really wonderful thing to see. And going over bumps like this manhole cover here, or sewer drain actually, it really is actually rather well damped. There's no kind of crashingness coming into this cabin. For a mainstream vehicle, I think it's pretty well sorted out in how it drives. And another fun thing is you have a heated windscreen here, so there's little electrode lines throughout the entire windscreen, just unlike some higher end Land Rover or Range Rover, or some even Ford products even have this as well. The only downside I would say with this vehicle around town is just fuel economy this week has really been a bit, well, I guess not disappointing. It's kind of in line with the EPA figures. We've averaged 22.2 miles per gallon over the course of this week of testing. We have auto hold here as well as auto stop start. It's a very smooth auto stop start system, but you will know it actually turns down your climate control system a little bit, as there's no sort of 48-volt or hybrid system in this vehicle whatsoever to kind of... Okay, folks, we're going to head out onto the highway here. I'll pop it into the sport mode, which does actually improve the throttle response quite a lot, as well as our gear shifts. No paddle shifters whatsoever on this vehicle, which is an interesting omission. A lot of competitors do offer paddle shifters, though we can manually shift this transmission, this 8-speed auto, via the shifter here in the center, but I'm just going to leave it in auto, as it 99% of the time will be left in. And let's get up to highway speed here. For handy dandy turn signal cameras here and blind spot, which are quite necessary in some scenarios, I think. Well, we didn't have a chance to really ring it out here. You can kind of hear in this sport mode, it holds gears for quite a long time before shifting. So definitely do not drive around in sport mode on a daily basis. It's really meant for those moments where you want that a little bit more of a quicker feeling and accepting acceleration situation. Passing on a highway, foot down. Yeah, it takes some time to get up to speed there. You can kind of see how it's holding those gears. A little bit of some confusion there in this 8-speed. So I'm gonna pop it right back over to normal mode. So on the highway out here, we automatically can turn on, if we would like, our steering and lane keep assistant function here, which is in this little button here with the steering wheel icon. We also do have an assisted page here we can see as well. So that's gonna give us a little bit more of some nice information there. And it's gonna hold down, if you hold down your OK button, it'll actually bring up your vehicle assistance settings, which is really handy if you want to make some adjustments there, obviously while you're parked. But I do like that feature where it's kind of like a quick shortcut icon. But as you can see, our lane keep assist and steering works really well. It can even take this corner all the way by itself right here. You're not supposed to have your hands off the wheel in this system, as it's not a hands-off system. But we're not even in adaptive cruise control right now, and we have this sort of, lane keep assist function functionality here, which I think is really useful. Otherwise, we do have a really great highway driving assistant functionality, which is your adaptive cruise control. All you got to do is pop this little left button here up here and set your speed, and that's it. Otherwise, our distance adjustment is really easy. We have 4 distance adjustments here we can select from, so 4, 2, 3, 1, all like that. Really easy to do. I like how this shows our blind spot all around us as well, kind of showing vehicles coming next to us that we may not even be able to see. It's showing us in our display there. We don't have crazy advanced features though. So like I mentioned, we do not have hands-free. We don't have auto lane change, for example. Some other cool things about this system is now we do actually have a more sensitive hand detection system. So if you don't have your hands on the steering wheel for an extended period of time, it will beep at you sooner than it did before for a little bit more of a safer overall driving experience here. And if you need to kind of make your own adjustments, you kind of just get onto the throttle or gas or brake, whatever you need there, and make that adjustment, and it'll go right back to your set speed in this system, which is nice. Generally, on the highway though, it's overall pretty quiet, I would say, as well. It feels a lot more sturdy and quieter in here than a typical Subaru Forester, for example. And going over all these bumps, this is a really bumpy on-ramp. Handles it really well, very sturdy at all 4 corners. Damping is really impressive, actually. It kind of soaks up a lot of these bumps well. That's why it kind of reminds me a bit of the Forester's suspension. That's one of the vehicles in this class where I feel like it does a great job at soaking up a lot of bumps and doesn't feel overly stiff. So I think they do a good job at that. Wind noise doesn't change too much with this open. You can imagine if it was a little windier or raining, that can actually make a difference, because typically these shades provide a little bit of some additional sound insulation. Should you consider updating it from the last gen or the pre-facelifted Kia Sportage that we actually tested on this channel? I would say yes. If you're from an older Sportage and you're looking at between the two, I think this one's going to be a little bit of a nicer upgrade. You may not like the styling, for example, but I think the wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, the upgraded software with over-the-air updates, and some of the other minor changes they made to this vehicle for this 2026 model year are worth the upgrades. I would still personally go for either the hybrid or plug-in hybrid over this particular vehicle, but then again, you lose this X Pro trim, which is exclusive to this particular just pure gas engine. So you get a lot of choices in the Kia Sportage lineup, and all of them are getting that 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, of course limited over at Kia, which is still a really great selling point in this class. So good job, Kia. Pricing isn't too out of this world as well for this fully loaded model. And as always, thank you guys for joining us on yet another video over at Allcarnews, and stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.